Hello, this is Carl Leopson, and I'm the instructor for SERP4009 and 509, Foundations of High Incidence Disabilities. This is the course introduction presentation, and I'm recording it for folks who might be missing the first class period, shame on you, or for folks who are taking this as an online course. This is the agenda. There'll be an agenda for every class session that we do. I'll post the agenda and we'll go over it in class before we start. Tonight we're going to review objectives. We're going to do some quick introductions. We're going to go over the course expectations, review the syllabus briefly, do a review before we end up our session, and talk about assignments for next week. The objectives for tonight's class. There'll also be objectives for every single class session. I think this is good practice, it's good teaching practice, and one of the things that I want to do for this class and the people in this class is try to model good instructional practice that's good with students in general education and particularly good with students in special education. In any case, our objectives for tonight. Identify a variety of methods for contacting the instructor. When given a situation, apply the course expectations. Name the major graded assignments for the course. Locate online materials. And describe the timeline for taking quizzes. Now let's go on to introductions. I was a classroom EBD teacher. Actually, I worked as a classroom teacher in rural settings and large metropolitan districts, but almost always for kids with emotional and behavioral disorders. In one setting in North Carolina, in Charlotte, my classroom was for the most aggressive and assaultive 4th and 5th grade students in one of the largest districts in the country. I was a district behavioral consultant for Scott County Schools in Kentucky. Did that while I was working on my master's degree in assistive technology, or helping select assistive and adaptive devices for persons with disabilities. After I got my master's degree, I was invited to come back to the University of Kentucky and get my doctorate. Completed that in 2000 and was also a research associate for the National Center on Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And finally, in 2001, I came to the U of A and I haven't left, which is kind of unusual in an academic career. I've been really happy to remain here. Great place to be. I'm the director of cross-categorical master's programs. I do research in intervention planning, and my major focus right now is in making intervention planning easier and more likely to result in people continuing intervention. On to course expectations. This set of course expectations is something that I would expect you, again, to do with students in special education, in classrooms in preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. And it's not a bad idea to do it in other settings also. It comes out of this model of positive behavioral interventions and supports. We'll talk about this more later in the semester and how it relates to kids with high incidence disabilities. But what you want to do is have just a few rules for your class. All right? My 3 rules are in the acronym PAR. I want you to PAR the course. I want you to be prepared, be active, and be respectful. PAR. All right. That way it's easy for kids and for anybody to remember what the expectations are. But what you have to do further then is break them down into what they mean in different areas. Be prepared. What being prepared in class means, being active in class, being respectful in class, and applying those also at transition times and during online activities. In class, we'll do this as a group activity. For those of you who are taking this as an online class, we'll do it as a discussion area activity. Let's talk about the syllabus. And that will help us get at some of our other objectives. We're going to talk about the syllabus for 409 and then the syllabus for the graduate students in 509. Graduate students, stick around and watch this element of the presentation because I'm going to fly through your syllabus and only show you differences. Right? We're going to talk about how to contact me, the major course activities, how you're evaluated, classroom behavior, requirements set up by the university. We'll take a quick look at the schedule, but we'll also take a look at quizzes and article presentations. And for graduate students, that would be, well, article presentations, but they're not in groups. So let's take a quick and closer look at the syllabus. I am in College of Education, room 425. My work number is listed there in the syllabus. My home number is also listed. The absolute best way to get in touch with me, and this is one of the course objectives for this evening, is by email. I answer my email regularly throughout the day. The second best way to get in touch with me is at my home number. If you really need to sit down with me, schedule an appointment. And I'm pretty much available for appointments. There are a few things you're required to do to be successful in this class. Major course activities. Attend. You get points for attendance. All right. There are also be online activities. And when you take part in that online activity during the week, you get your attendance point when you show up for class. It's like saying we could have done those online things in class, but since we're doing them before class and it's going to shorten our class period, they're part of your class attendance. There are weekly quizzes. Weekly quizzes. Those of you who've had me for a class before, you know that I believe in frequent measurement. I think it's a great thing to do. I'll talk more about what the quizzes are like. Don't fret. Don't worry. You'll find that you're going to do really, really well in this class because I've designed it for you to do well. Article presentations. You'll be required to work in groups of 4 to 5 students and present an article from a journal in the area of high incidence disabilities. There's a final exam. It's worth 60 points. There are some short answer questions. It's probably, I think, 8 questions. You choose to answer 5. You'll all do well. So there are 195 points possible. 1 point for each time you attend class and do the online activities before class. There are points for the weekly quizzes. There are article presentation points, and there are points for the final exam. The breakdown for letter grades is pretty much normal. 90% A, 80% B, 70% C, 60% D. I don't expect anybody to lose a lot of points. And I really do set up this course for success. I'll let you read through the classroom behavior policies for the college and for the university. But do know that I really look for respectful behavior in students, and I try to provide respectful behavior myself and model it to all of you. If you require any kind of accommodations for this class, come and talk to me. We can absolutely work it out. This is the schedule. You can see that it runs from the 21st through December 4th. We'll talk about it more in detail in class. For this online presentation, I'm just going to say, make sure that you watch the syllabus to see when the quizzes are due, when the readings are due. These are also posted online at the D2L site in the calendar. And I also have targets and benchmarks set up for you to hit in order to get your group presentations ready on time. Let's take a look at quizzes. There are class quizzes and reading quizzes. And there are 12 sets of quizzes, so that means 24 quizzes. Class quizzes. Class quizzes for me are a good model of frequent measurement, and I believe in frequent measurement. I will know week to week what everybody understands, because after every class period you're going to take a quiz on what we did in class. I'll know immediately. I'm not going to wait for a midterm, I'm not going to wait for a final to find out that you don't understand. If you don't understand, something's gone wrong and I need to reteach it. Right? The format for these quizzes is that you'll have objectives like we talked about initially. We'll have content in class that covers the objectives. We'll review in class at the end of class how that content meets the objective. We'll take a look at the online quiz. You'll go home and take the quiz after the class. It'll stay open forever. Okay? The quiz opens up right after class is over, stays open forever. I'll try to get it graded by the next class period, and if you screw something up in the quiz, you can just retake it. I'm not here to trick anybody. I'm here to make sure that you actually do understand all this material. You'll have a chance to show me your summative evaluation, your summative experience on the final. This is formative, and formative means that if there's a mistake, you need to correct that mistake. So you'll be allowed to fix your work and get all the points on every quiz. All right? For example, one of the objectives for tonight is identify a variety of methods for contacting the instructor. We talked about that when we went over the syllabus. What's the best way to get in touch with me? That's right, email. Second best way? That's right, home phone. And what do you do if you need to have a face-to-face discussion? That's right. You contact me and you make an appointment. The quiz questions are developed right in line with all the objectives. This is just the kind of instruction that I'm trying to model for you for use with students with high incidence disabilities. There is also a reading quiz. It is also about modeling frequent measurement. I'm not going to have you read a bunch of articles and then take a quiz or just ask you about them on the final or the midterm. I should also mention there's no text for this class, no textbook. We'll be using articles out of practitioner journals. So I want you to get used to using relevant practitioner sources, things that you can go back to when you get out of your program, all right, and learn about what some of those good sources are in journal material, because the field keeps moving on and a textbook won't move on, but the journals do. The journals are always presenting new and interesting and relevant material. I also want to model for you the use of source documents. I don't want you reading what other people say people have said. I want you to read what people are saying. Alright, and that's what you're going to find in these practitioner sources. And I want to model good professional development for you. And I want to model for you that you can read these pieces and they are useful. So, all of our readings will come out of journals. And the format is going to be like this. There will be objectives for our readings also. So I'm going to tell you what you really ought to get out of the readings. I want you to read those readings before you come to class and take the quiz before you get to class. The quiz opens, the reading quiz opens right after class. I hope to have it graded by the next class, but it doesn't stay open. It only has a 1-week time frame. It closes before the class during which that reading is due. All right? The reading for this class is the syllabus. And one of the questions is, what looks interesting to you in the syllabus and why? And the quiz question is, find a topic of interest in the syllabus. Why is it interesting to you? All right. So they're not going to be difficult. I'll be pointing you in the right direction in the readings. But let's take a look at how this all fits together. I know this has been a little confusing. Let's say we have class 1. After class 1, you go home and take the class quiz. You can take it right after class. Just sitting there if you have your computer or your smartphone with you. During that next week, to get ready for class 2, you take reading quiz 2. And you also do any class 2 online activity so that you get your attendance point when you show up for class 2. Right at class 2, so then we have the second class. You take quiz 2, class quiz 2 right after class 2. You take the reading quiz 3 sometime during that week before the next class. You do the readings for the third class and you take the reading quiz. And you also do the next online activity for class 3 so that you get your attendance points when you show up for class 3. And on, same thing with class 4. All right. I've set up the calendar in D2L to provide you with reminders when the class quiz opens, when the reading quiz is open, and when they close. So you'll have notice. And you can also set up notifications so that it will prod you with an email 2 days before anything is about to close. For the article presentations, the focus here is on extending your knowledge by having you look through additional material, helping you learn to work collaboratively, helping you learn to develop lesson plans, and learning to present to a group. It's worth 50 points. There are groups, we'd be working in groups of 3 to 5. I want there to be about 10 groups. You select an article out of a journal, and remember, if you'll go to D2L, one of the things that we did as a warm-up activity on D2L was search in the library, online library system, for a journal article, and that was the purpose for having you do that, so that you get some experience and you know how to go look for an article for your article presentation. Your audience is your peers. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll find an interesting article that you think other people in class might find interesting in the area of high incidence disabilities. It says a 40-minute presentation. I'd say 30 minutes. Okay. You'll develop a short lesson plan with maybe 1 or 2 objectives. What are the most important things in the article you think people ought to know? Your group sits down, makes the lesson plan, does your 30-minute presentation using something like I'm using Prezi or PowerPoint, and then it's graded by a rubric. There are a number of great journals. We can talk about those more in depth later, but things like Beyond Behavior, Teacher Education and Special Education, Teaching Exceptional Children, Journal of Special Education Technology. You can look for articles by journal, or you can look for it just by interest area. I'd though suggest sticking with practitioner journals like these, because they say here's an interesting thing that came out of the research and here's what you can do with it. Graduate students, your syllabus is just about identical. Quizzes work the same way. The only thing that's different is article presentation. So let's hop through these real quick. Your class time is a little different. We're going to try and keep it as brief as possible by doing a lot of our work online. Point system is the same, but what's going to be different is that your presentations will be, let me hop through this, your presentations will be of articles that you find for the group. So you'll be doing a lot more reading than the undergraduates. Each person in the graduate course is required to find 2 additional articles, post them, or give them to me so I can post them, but you could post them in a discussion area. You select a journal article in the area of high incidence disabilities. You plan a discussion for the rest of the group. We all read the article, and then we come and discuss it in class. You can use a presentation. I'm not asking you folks to develop a lesson plan. It's less about face-to-face teaching and more about developing higher levels of knowledge. So you're going to do a lot of reading. You're going to get a lot of background. If there are 10 people in class, you're all going to be reading the articles for the class, and then another 20 pieces, another 20 articles. So choose wisely for your friends and your peers. I'd also suggest that while you maybe should also go with some of these practitioner journals, I would be fine with me for the graduate students for your presentations to also go with some more basic research and knowledge development articles, and we can talk about those a little more in class and online. Finally, let's do a brief review. There'll always be a review in class, and I do a review in class so that you understand what you're going to be tested on. They're related, if you'll notice, these were copied directly from the objectives, and the quiz questions come right out of some of these objectives. So you should now know a variety of ways to get in touch with me. What's the best way? Email. Second best way? Home phone. If you need to sit and talk with me, what are you going to do? You're going to make an appointment. When given a situation, apply the course expectations. So we looked at those par the course expectations. They're available online for you to download. What I'd like you to think about is how might you apply those expectations, one of those in a group. Let's say prepared, active, and respectful. In a group situation, what are some things you could do to show respect within your group? The next objective was name the major graded assignments for the course. We went over the major graded assignments. There is attendance. And what else? That's right, we've got quizzes, class quiz and reading quiz every week. There is a final exam, and there is the article presentation. Locating online materials. Go take a look at the D2L site, and it's fairly self-explanatory. I don't think it'd be a great difficulty in locating online materials. We didn't talk about a lot about that. in this presentation, but what I want you to understand is that everything that you'll need for this course is online. And it's either at D2L, at the university, or at the university library system. Describe the timeline for taking quizzes. You may need to go back in this presentation and look, but remember, take the quiz for the class right after we finish the class, do the readings for the next class, and take the reading quiz before the class when those readings are due. And do any online activity right before the class when we will be discussing that activity. So assignments for next week. This will remain similar, hopefully across some different semesters, so that I could use this presentation once again. Remember to take class quiz 1 and reading quiz 1 is due, but reading quiz 2 will also be due next week. So read the pieces for class 2 and take the reading quiz, because the reading quiz 2 will close right before we have class next week. For those of you who are undergraduates, before we get to next week, I hope to have you choose groups and self-enroll online. And for those folks who show up at class, I'll explain and show you how to do that. The reading for next week is about person-first language. Really interesting practitioner article, just the kind of thing that I'd hope you'd pick out as a presentation article. The online activity is about perceptions of persons with disabilities. It's a really, I think, kind of a cool presentation that it will be located in the discussion section, and you can walk through a Prezi presentation and respond to it with your peers. The class activity next week will be about demographics, and be sure to either bring a computer or some tool on which you can open up these digital documents. It's a 17-page document that we'll be using during class. You can print it out if you want to. No need to have a hard copy. I'm fine with folks using these as digital documents and saving trees. That's the end of this presentation. I'll see some of you in class, and I'll see some of you online.